All right.
Greetings, family. This is Baba Ankh and Baba Kwabena. We're down here doing another discussion on the today is the 3rd of July. 4th is tomorrow, I guess, right? Baba Kwabena?
Yep. Yep.
And we're going to have an interesting show. Just two elders, young elders, discussing what's going on in the world. We're going to have a variety of topics. We're going to try to keep it till about 3 or 4. But I think this is good information for everyone. And I would like for you to share, subscribe, and like if you find this discussion interesting. I hope you do. And if you don't, comment. And if you do, comment. So here we go. Once again, I want to thank you, family, and thank you for joining this and listening to this particular discussion. So, Baba Kwabena, before we move in, we want to talk about how, well, moving forward, we want to discuss how you found African spirituality, how it's been beneficial. Do you want to just recap that briefly?
Oh,
You were
sure.
talking about how you were in a Christian mind, and now you're doing your creative walk.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, of course, born into a quote unquote Christian family, and had my Christian, grew up in the Methodist Church, had a christening, I guess, at around 12. And they sprinkle you in the Methodist Church versus submersion. And then I had my conversion experience actually in my bedroom when I was 18. But I grew into this Christian thing. And as I was growing into it, I was in Christianity for over 40 years.
What do you mean conversion experience? What does that mean?
So that's a term that's used in Christianity when you come to the realization who Jesus is and you accept him as your Lord and Savior.
Okay.
And typically there's an experience around that event. It's an event. It's actually, I mean, for me, I was in my bedroom and I asked him to come into my heart, and something happened in me internally. Something shifted in me when I did that. And I knew I was different. And I even walked, when I got up off my knees, I actually, because I was pretty much I was into dope quite a bit. I sold a lot of weed. Part of my family was one of the largest drug dealers in the Midwest. So I had access to all kind of dope. I sold weed in high school, nothing hard, but just weed. But I smoked a lot. I drank a lot when I was a teenager and partied a lot. But when I had that experience, everything shifted and I just stopped it. Like, I even forgot I had dope in the house. I forgot that I had, and so those kinds of things happened, and it began a process, this evolution of me changing and coming into something different than what I had been. And then along that path, I also had miracle after miracle. I had healings. I would pray for healings. I'd be healed. Just sicknesses, I'd be healed. I would lay hands on other people and they'd be healed. And so I had all these kinds of things happening. I, ended up being a missionary to foreign countries, and that blew up. I mean, everything that I did that was Christian focused, it just blew up, and I would just walk right into it. But coming into African spiritual science and these Kemetic principles, it was difficult to understand that kind of thing happened here too, but in a different way. As I started to learn and started to experiencing things, and what I found out is, because it made me question, well, how did all that stuff happen to me when I was a Christian if it wasn't real? And so
but it was real.
It was real, but it was like I had kind of thrown Christianity out altogether once I crossed over, because I was like, this truth was like, it was so real. And I was like, how could I have been deceived? How could the world be so deceived with Christianity? Yet again, as I began to grow and learn, and in retrospect, I started to see, oh, this stuff that I experienced was real. So I wasn't faking it. And then those healings were real. Those that happened for me, that happened for other people. All of those experiences, but it was all about the vibration, which I learned that in African spiritual science about vibrating and frequencies and all that kind of thing. And so that's all it was. That's really what it was. Now, to go back and tell a Christian that, they won't get it. They won't accept it because it's Jesus. And because of the brainwashing that happens in Christianity, that causes you not to be able to think outside the Christian box. So, so anyway, as I continue to learn about African spiritual science, about the Kemetic principles and this lifestyle of spirituality, it's fascinating. And the thing about it too is, now that I know what I know, and it's all about vibration, I can deliberately make things happen. I can be intentional about things that I'm believing for, and they happen. And there's nothing that I cannot not have or not do or not be, because it's all about vibration and aligning myself. And the principles teach you how to come into alignment, so to make those things happen. So you can be intentional about making them happen instead of them kind of happening every now and then. So there was a lot of prayers that I had answered in Christianity, but there were a lot of prayers that were never answered in Christianity. But I'm finding in African spiritual science that the prayers that I'm asking now, they're consistently being answered. It's not a hit and miss.
Right.
So so that's a distinct, a stark difference to how things work in Christianity and in other religions. And I'm sure that other religions are having those experiences too, because they're also operating at a vibration of things that they're believing for or asking for, and it's happening. And they attribute it to Buddha, or they attribute it to what I guess the Latter-day Saints, whatever they worship, or the Jehovah's Witnesses, whatever they do. And I don't know, because I'm not familiar with those religions, but I would imagine that other religions are having the same experiences, but don't realize what's going on, and it's hit and miss.
I think also, I just want to add, came to me that I think with Christianity, my experience and observations seem to indicate that it encourages passivity. Just like you said, things were happening, you didn't know why. Whereas African spiritual science, studying Kemetic sense principles and the like, allows you to become a creator, an actor, an initiator, as opposed to just being someone who's just a leaf in the stream. And you think that you get into this stream of Christianity and it's going to take you where you're supposed to go, and it neuters one's power. And I think that's part of it. If you look at the history, if one looks at the history of Christianity, how it developed and all the games was played, it's just basic. Well, one observation I have is that it's a big psyop to basically pimp the people, so that the few rich people who are in control or whatever can gather all the material riches of the world, while you're sitting there waiting for God, Jehovah, Jesus, whatever, to come throw you out a few crumbs. And you're going to get yours when you die. And of course, none of these folks have died and went down there and saw what they get. And if you look at a lot of out-of-body experiences and people talking about who have died for a few minutes or whatever, they come back and it's nothing like what Christians teach us. So before I listen to a preacher, anybody, Christian preacher, telling me about what happens after death, they're going to have died. So if they haven't died, then they can't tell me about what happens after death.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's kind of, I just want to bring that up about the spirituality, African spirituality. It enables you to be a creator, an actor, an initiator, someone to bring something to you, as opposed to passively waiting for something to be delivered to you. And the power that we have with our minds and our thinking and our vibratory levels, and to be an agent of creation, as opposed to a passive recipient of the creation, because a lot of stuff we get created on us we don't like bills.
Right.
So I just want to add that. So all you folks out there who are in Christianity, God bless you. I hope you continue to grow and learn, because there's some great things in Christians, and some pastors who have the mantle or cloak or people of Christianity really don't practice it the way it's taught, even though the Bible has a lot of good information, recognizing that it is really just a plagiarism of the African teachings that have been dumbed down. I heard one guy say it's kind of like a dummy's guide for spirituality. So if you really want to get into it,
I like that.
you gotta get into it more so, and it's that pimp quality too. So
Yeah.
you have anything else to say about that Christian conversion and versus African spirituality? Anything else to add
Nothing.
before we move to the next topic?
Nothing other than it's amazing too that it's so pervasive throughout the world, that that was planted thousands of years ago, and how it has taken off and has taken root around the entire world. And again, not to say that there aren't any good aspects to Christianity, because we know that it's esoteric versus what is esoteric versus esoteric? Yeah, and so
SX.
Yeah, S and X.
Right.
and so understanding that certainly shows the value of the Christian Bible and those writings and the truth that's in them. But you gotta differentiate the two. You gotta differentiate them.
And one final thing that I want to say is that I think all Abrahamic religions can be beneficial to African people, but I think overall their design is toxic, and therefore the destruction of Black people. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of haters, Muslims and Hebrew Israelites, Jews, whatever, but I think overall, when we study the history, we recognize who we truly are, understanding the science, that those things are deleterious to our advancement as a people and the planet, because they teach you to fight nature. And one of the biggest problems, we're destroying nature right now. We'll come back to that. So we're going to move on to the next topic. And I was listening to a program yesterday, and it had it was talking about Hollywood, and the guy who wrote The Matrix, a guy named Tom Althouse, we were told it was this lady, Sylvia Stewart, who wrote The Matrix. But from what I've been studying, she did not write it. She was she plagiarized. Actually, she was used as a crash test dummy by the studios, and the studios are in the habit of stealing information, intellectual property, profiting off of it, and then going on about their business. This guy talked about how he wrote the story, and he has copyright. Actually, he won the copyright case. He has registered. So this lady, Sylvia Stewart, appears to be a crash test dummy and a Kamala Harris for the studios. So sorry to say that about her. But what he said, that was a topic, and the reason why I brought this whole thing up is because they were discussing how absolute power doesn't, we've been taught absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we're taught by Hollywood that our nature is to be evil. Man is evil, and that goes back to Christianity. We're born in sin. We're not good inherently. We're born in evil because of some woman eating an apple and whatever.
Right.
And that we're taught to be taught to be ignorant, because according to the story is that when the tree of knowledge, what is it? What did I say that?
Of good and evil. Yeah, the tree of knowledge and evil.
So you're supposed to not have knowledge. God made us to be ignorant, which is foolish. That doesn't even make any sense. But that's what they're taught, and so they believe that. But getting on to the topic here, the Hollywood studios are nothing but, it's a big web of money folks, and then further down, you got different levels of acting, but basically the same was absolute power corrupts absolutely. But from an African Kemetic perspective, absolute power doesn't corrupt absolutely. It only corrupts you if you don't understand your divinity and you don't have compassion. So we have absolute power within us from Kemetic science. We don't have the same quantity of power that the creator of all has, but we definitely have the same quality. So just as he can create, or she, whatever, I use he in more of a just general sense. I'm not going to be politically correct. I don't follow that foolishness. That's another mind control thing. But basically, we have the quality of the creator. So we can create just like the creator can create all things. It's just that we have the absolute power, but we have to mix it with compassion. And then our divine essence can unfold as it should, because the universe is compassion. It doesn't mean that it won't whoop your behind. I've definitely been kicked in the behind by mostly my choices, but the universe will teach you a lesson and wake you up. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, which is a lie. Absolute power plus compassion leads to divinity, and that's what we have to be mindful of. Any comments, brother?
No, that's good. That's good, bro.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, I wanted to talk about racism. Like I said, we're going to keep this kind of short, but racism is interesting because it's a toxic creation by the money folks. I mean, we can't understand the world unless we really look at the money. And unfortunately, in most schools, we're not taught how money is created, where money comes from, what money is, and how it's used to control everybody. And, you know, this guy, Rothschild, I'm trying to remember, Nathan, I think it's Nathan Rothschild. He said in the 1800s, I care not who makes a country's laws. Give me control of the money. And that's it. And that's the truth. Because if you own the money, which we have privately held money now, you can buy off any politician or whatever you want, take over any corporation. If you can create money out of thin air, then you have all power, because you've basically become the toll booth to the natural world and the natural riches of the world. Just like in Christianity and Abrahamic religions in general, they create a toll booth between you and your own divinity and spirituality. So I see these things as mirrors: Christianity or Islamic, Abrahamic religions, and the money power as different, basically different sides of the same coin of creating a toll booth. And one of their tools to maintain power, the money folks, is racism, white supremacy.
Yeah.
Moving forward, people talk about how America is America is free and friendly. There's no racism here, or very little, and that you know, everyone can make it, and black people are just crying wolf, and they always want to play the race card. Well, I heard that, and it really became prevalent at the time of OJ, and they were saying he was playing Johnny Cochran was playing the race card, and they talk about the race card. But listen to the Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She said something very interesting. She said, America is an anagram for I am race. And I've said this before, but I'm keep saying it because it is. America, from my understanding, is the race game. Having been born here, raised here, been through the Middle Passage and years of Jim Crow and the like, racism is here, but racism is not only toxic for black people. As black people, Africans, we think that racism only affects us negatively. But my observation, I've come to the conclusion that racism is toxic for everybody and only benefits those who are in power for a short-term acquisition of material goods. But it ultimately is toxic to them too. And let me explain it. The reason why I say that is because it's toxic for non-African people is because they acquiesce to abuse from the money folks. So like the capitalists, and I think capitalism, I'm digress a little bit. Capitalism, anyone who talks about the environment and the earth, and that they want to get nature together, or they want to go green and all this, and they don't address how we interact with the earth fundamentally through capitalism, then they're just either ignorant or just a tool. But I've said enough. Go ahead, brother. I'm gonna come back to that. Any
Oh
comments?
no. I mean, I agree with you. It's money is king, and from a worldly perspective, right? And so, whoever has the bank, whoever has the bag, is
Right.
the winner of the game, so
Right.
to speak.
The golden rule.
Yeah.
But that's outside of the African
Regardless,
tradition.
and
Huh?
regardless of what they say about it, they'll tell you that it's not that way, but it's that way. It is what it is.
Right, and I think a lot of people who classify themselves as white, because the system of capitalism is a system of slavery. Let's not forget that capitalism derived or developed or evolved from the colonial project of enslaving the world or colonizing the world. It is just the next iteration of the slave system. And ultimately, the goal is to enslave everyone. As we watch these injections for everyone, and we're talking about how we need to have, we need to be under control of the, what is it, the new world order stuff, and the, what is it, they're talking about this human, what is it, I'm forgetting the word right now, but basically they want to turn everybody into robots, right? They want to have the brave new world for everyone with chips, and everyone is tied to the neural link, and we're all basically made into robots, meat robots. That's just another evolution or expression of the slavery system by these materialists who have come into power, and they're using the system of capitalism as well as racism, white supremacy to execute their goals. And the term it came to me is transhumanism. Transhumanism is just another fancy way to say that they're wanting to implement a slavery system for the planet, their continued project. And these people are so clueless that they're basically devotees of materialism, and there's no spirit within them. And that's the problem, because African people, Black people, and even people classify themselves as white, recognize the power of the spirit, and it's been taken out of us, and it's continuing to be brainwashed and taken out of us by Hollywood. So those things all tied together. But I wanted to say that racism is used as a tool to divide people so that the money folks can stay up top and not worry about the peasants coming together to overthrow them. And it's toxic for people classified as white too, because they get a few more crumbs off the table, but then they don't. And so they think because they worked hard and did the right thing that the system is working, but the system is broke. And it's been broke from the beginning because it was conceived in sin and executed in iniquity. At least that's my view.
Yep, agreed.
I want to talk a little bit about Baker's Rebellion in that particular regard. So Baker's Rebellion was something that occurred in Virginia in the 1600s. There have been several rebellions. There have been so many rebellions by Black people and other people too that have been hidden from us. And that's one of the Hollywood things, to erase our history and teach us our history from a Hollywood perspective, which is run by demons. I mean, my people, when I say demon, a demon is somebody who exalts material things over spirit, and recognizing that the beauty of the planet and the spirituality and that is involved in everyone, and that we are to live as brothers and sisters, taking care of the planet, like also the animals, and the nature. We're part of it. We think we're away from it, and the Abrahamic religions teach us that we are above nature. Like I had my sister one time come at me, and we were talking about yoga, and she was under the spell of some, person who classifies himself as white pastor. And she was saying, oh, that's one of those earth religions, earth worshiping religions or whatever, or something. They talk about if you don't just follow the Bible or the Quran or whatever, you're the polytheist. and you are to be stoned
Right,
and
right,
destroyed because you're
right.
not worshiping Jesus, which is once again an artificial construct and getting into materialism through mind control. Jump in
Yep.
anytime, brother. I'm just kind of rambling on here. This is the end topic, but I kind of wanted to just discuss that thing. Because spirit is ultimately where we need to be.
Right. But in getting there, we have to. There has to be this awakening, right? Because you can't see because of what has been given, what's been or perpetuated throughout the Western culture, or in the world for that matter, that so many people have bought into. And it filters throughout every aspect of society. And so until you're awakened in some area so that you can start to see, you just don't know, and you can't. It's hard to break free from it.
Right. And we think that these bodies, that's what the materialists think. We think that we are just these bodies and that we're going to be on this planet for whatever time period, 60, 70, 80 years, whatever, 100 years. And then we're going to die and leave these meat robots here. And one phrase I've heard is, he who dies with the most toys wins, which is utterly ridiculous and denies a spiritual component of our existence, which is the primary component, because that's what lives on. And our intent and our minds allow us to use our spirit to tie and move forward. But capitalism and even racism are dangerous materialist principles to tie us to the earth and destroy the earth. Ultimately, my view is that the archons or the spirits or the aliens, whatever, there are spiritual entities that feed on us suffering. And these people, like in Hollywood, the banksters and all that, and even capitalists, are willing or unwilling dupes for these people. I think that wanting to claim whiteness is a betrayal of humanity. So someone who's proud to be white and takes that moniker doesn't understand where the term came from. And it's a betrayal of your humanity. What do you think about that that line there?
Yeah, a betrayal of humanity.
Of humanity, yes. I think claiming whiteness and being proud to be white is a betrayal of humanity. The reason why I say that is because by saying you're white, you're taking an artificial appellation created by banksters in the 1600s in Virginia to deal with Bacon's Rebellion and the coming together of Black people, people who classify themselves as white Indians and everyone against the true terror of the planet, which was the banksters and the folks who are the moneyed interests who live off of usury. And that's the real issue. But by saying that you're white, you're taking this particular payoff to side with the users, the money folks, the evil people, against the rest of humanity to enslave them. And even though you're enslaved too, you're okay with a few couple of coins that they throw at you or some scraps off the table, and this mantle of now being white and better than the unwhite people, not understanding that whiteness is really just a mutation from the original man, which is a melanated man, a black man. And mutations never add genetic material. They only remove genetic material. So someone who classifies himself as white are really just an albino mutation of some sort, and they have less genetic material than the original man. So they're in some regards weaker. So hopefully I'm tying all this together. I'm kind of rambling here, but
it makes it too, it makes you think about who really is deceived. Where's the true deception? We know that we have been deceived, and that, here we are in our early 60s, and we've at some point along that timeline we awoken, whether it's in the 50s or 40s or whatever. But
hey, I've been woke since I was a baby, man. Speak for yourself.
Oh, you got jokes. But I mean, ultimately, what is the true deception? Who is truly deceiving? For those of us who are woke, we know we're no longer deceived. But those who are perpetuating the deception are really the ones that are so indelibly deceived about what really is, I guess. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking off the top of my head.
I think you're right. I think the ones who are in control, the Warren Buffetts and their puppets like Gates and Elon Musk. And Warren Buffett is kind of is really maybe like a general, but you have ultimately the rulers and ones who run the show. They're above those guys, and they are truly deceived because they're implementing or trying to implement a transhumanist agenda, which is anathema to spirituality and creation, because these bodies are here only for a time, but they want to maintain, they become ultimately seduced by materialism and want to stay in these bodies forever. And that's the big problem. And that's and a lot of Africans people, we've been so miseducated and with Christianity and the like, that we think that that's okay. And they're actively contributing to this project, which is going to fail. And it's failing now as they've come out with these injections to get everybody shot up and get everyone thinking into the cell phones and the neural links and all the other electronic foolishness. But ultimately, it's failing now. And the times are changing in the universe to allow for the reimposition of spirit as first. And that's what we're seeing now. And that's why so many people are supposedly getting woke or waking up and understanding where we truly are and getting away from all this material stuff. Capitalism has to go. I'm sorry, I don't say socialism is better, but I think some form of the exaltation of humanity, taking care of people. There should be no starvation. No one should want for anything on the planet. Educate everyone. And if those aren't the goals, then the cleansing is coming, and those who want to hold on to the stuff will be washed away with the stuff, because the stuff ultimately from a physical perspective is just another vibratory expression of creation, right? If you look at physics, stuff, money, houses, clothes, it's just a vibratory expression of the energy from the ethers.
Right.
And that goes back to the African spirituality of being able to manifest from the ethers. But if we're caught up in racism and blaming the white man and stuck on that, not understanding the big game, because even the white people classify themselves as white, they're deceived. They're probably even more deceived.
Right.
And they hold on to it and want to fight. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of where I was headed when, when I said what I said previously. Where's the true deception? And it's with the mutants, right? The mutants are because they don't even know who they are. They don't even know, they don't accept, and they refuse to accept that they came from this melanin, or that a mutation occurred. And so it's just an interesting dichotomy that of how this whole thing was constructed and how it's being played out. And it'll be interesting to see how, since we know that there's this astrological cycle that happens,
right.
And so we know that shifts are occurring in the universe. We know that things are changing, and more people are awaking to see who they really are and what the truth really is, and identifying who they are as creators and creating. And so as that, it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds and how that shift will impact what is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So
So
what, go ahead, brother.
no, I was done.
Okay, no, what I'm saying is that the folks who are in control right now, they were able to profit under the Piscean age because of the duality and the delusion of duality. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree, as we're taught from the 7 or the 8 laws of Seshat. So to think that there are opposites in duality is just a way to confuse us if we don't understand the basic laws. So these people who classify themselves as white are part of the deceived, and they need to wake up and come back to the family of humanity, the banksters and the other money folks who are usurers, who, as Dante said, are in the 7th or 11th circle of hell down there with the sodomites. And you see that these people who are in usury running Hollywood and the banksters are pushing all this sodomy on everyone. It's right in line with what they're thinking. But ultimately, as the universe shifts, we are awakening, and there's going to be a cleansing, and there'll be a new spring. And that's what they are holding back with their transhumanism and desire to go into the space and run away from everything. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
it's not going. They're going to fail. They're trying. They're like Canute standing on the seashore, telling the tide to go back out. It ain't gonna listen. Sorry, dude.
Right.
You day late and $1 short. All right, brother. Is there anything else? I'm gonna wrap this up. If you don't have anything else to add.
No, I'm good. Other than, I guess, the fact that we also see, with the shift in the universe, we see the African man rising,
right?
And that's just so exciting to see, and to get the glimpses of what's coming, so, and then to be a part of it.
All right. Yeah, we're being reborn, and it's for all of humanity, and that's what the whole story. I'm gonna say this digression again. The story of Osir, Set, and Heru, and it's called the some people term it as the Osirian Metaphorine. And basically, you have Osir, Set, and Heru, and how Osir. I'll tell the story briefly for those who aren't aware. Basically, Osir was the god and of humanity, or the divine being that was here on the planet, and everything was running good, heaven basically on earth. He had his wife Set. She was the divine feminine principle. And when I say God, I'm not talking about some man sitting up in a chair. I'm really talking about scientific principles. But through the story, Set, or Satan, as it evolved into from the Christian interpretation, was the brother of Osir, and he was jealous, and he basically killed his brother Osir, or the harmony with the universe. He destroyed that because there is disorder, and disorder does have its place in creation, but only for a time, and that's the cycles that we go through. But basically, the Set cycle came in and destroyed the harmony, Osir, and the feminine principle came to the rescue like the cavalry, man. She basically, Osir's body was disassembled into 14, I think it's 13 or 14 pieces. I get confused. I think it's 14. But basically,
I think it's 14.
Yeah, it was disassembled into 14 pieces. I'm cutting the story short, but basically it spread throughout the land because Osir Set wanted to ensure that he couldn't come back. Well, she took she went and found all the pieces of the body, put it back together, but his penis, his energy or creative tool, the penis, was missing. She couldn't find it. That was eaten by a fish. And we can talk about that at a later time, but she couldn't, it was unavailable. So what she did was, using her magic powers, came as a bird and hovered over his body and was able to be inseminated by Osir And so she became pregnant with Heru, the savior, who we now term Christians do as Jesus. And so Heru, Iasu, came back, Heru, and he battled with Set, the disorder or the evil, to avenge his father. He lost his eye and all that. And once he finally submitted to wisdom and spirituality, he was able to defeat Set. But he didn't kill Set. He basically put Set in check, and he restored the harmony on the planet. And so that's kind of like the cycle we go through, and that's the cycle of the universe. You go from order to disorder and back and forth. That's just how the universe works. But Christians and Abrahamic folks took it to a childishly emotional perspective of good and evil. So when you express good and evil, that's really childish. It's not scientific, and it's expressing this a misunderstanding of how the universe actually works. So once order was restored upon the land, Set was put in check. And that's kind of what I see going on right now. People who follow the materialist doctrine, which is what Set was following, are going to be put in check. And that's happening now as the African man arises in the form of Heru to restore balance upon the planet. Because right now we have disorder. Look at the pollution and just unbridled greed that chops down trees, destroys forests, is overfishes, just sprays stuff in the sky to try and control the weather. It's so crazy, but their time is coming to an end. And you know, this reincarnation is real because it's a cyclical event, but I want to my next reincarnation or incarnation to be in the next phase, not back here on this planet. So I know I went kind of deep there, but I like it.
Yeah, yep. Cool.
All right, brother. If you have nothing to add, I'm going to say thank you, family, for listening. I hope you found this information useful, insightful. Hate it, love it. Give me a comment below. And I wish everyone love and gratitude and the expression of the lights. You have anything, Baba?
I'm good. Appreciate you.
All right, family. Love and gratitude. We'll be back here next week. And thank you for your time. Once again, like, share, subscribe. Bye.